Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's that M-A-double-T, and riding with me as always is the P.O.P.
What's going on, guys? What's going
I'll
on?
get it. I'll come up with something.
The P.O.P. All right, that's all right.
You know me.
I'm the J-Mo P.O.P. I'm down with P.O.P.
So, we hopefully will have our guest. It's in the title. Darrin Madeley hopefully will be showing or be able to come on. I know he's in the midst of traveling with his high school hockey team that he coaches, and he's the dean of students, I believe, there as well. So he's in the midst of traveling. I think he's coming here to Michigan, if I remember right. But let's just jump into what was the NBA week that we had. Just, because we have to mention it. Oh, there we go.
Welcome, sir.
Welcome.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Absolutely.
All right. Snafu
Loud
avoided.
and clear.
Snafu avoided.
So,
I'm not seeing me. Can you guys see me?
No, I see a black screen.
Yep.
Okay, let's figure that one out now. Why is that not working? It should be working. It says it's working on my end. You know what? Should I reboot really quick?
You can. We're just gonna continue going talking about NBA. If you want to reboot and get back on, yeah, that'd be all right.
You guys can talk NBA.
All right. All right.
No, I actually will completely agree right now. The college game, and I've said this for like the last few weeks, I just feel like the college basketball scene's a lot better, and it's just not. I don't know. It's just I don't get the passion from the players as I would in, like, say, the NHL and like the other pro sports that they want to be there and they want to win. These guys, it just feels like they're there for themselves. They're not there for the team.
And I think we've seen that a lot this week. Somebody put up an astronomical amount of points, like 70 something.
Well, that was the dude from the Timberwolves.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so you see these points being put on the board, and I wrote down a question. Is scoring in the NBA such high, because it's out of control? I mean, there's so wild, crazy numbers of scoring. This is why I don't like watching basketball after. I mean, that's why for me sports stops after football, and then it picks up once baseball starts ramping up, and then hockey, the NHL Stanley Cup. But you watch these games, and especially you see it at the pro level. No passion at all for defense.
No.
Very rarely do you see a team that has defense. And, the thing is, I was a Michael Jordan hater a long time ago. Matt will tell you, I didn't think he was. I didn't like him. But for him to get 60 points a game in the 80s when defense was relevant, that was one thing. And that was very, very rare, if you remember right. It was, Jordan got a lot of 25s and 30s, but very rarely did he get 60 plus.
Yeah.
Now 60 plus is like a norm.
Well, hitting 60 or more is like Jordan when he would go for 50.
Right. And it's just I don't know.
This isn't basketball anymore, in my opinion.
No. This is a platform, and I'm going to get in trouble for this, and I shouldn't say it, but I will. It's a platform that, hey, Dad, that certain organizations use to get their point across. That was probably the most political way of saying it. And LeBron James is one of the best that gets his platform across.
And I think, quite honestly, you look at a league. You look at the four major sports leagues. You have the NFL, MLB, NBA, and the NHL. And you see the NHL or the NBA has their drama. The NFL always has some sort of stupidity, some dummy deciding that he's gonna do something. Honestly, the only league that I guess it's just because I don't have a lot of knowledge of the current stuff. The only league that doesn't have that idiot is the NHL. Quite honestly, I haven't seen a bonehead in the news about the actual in the inner league that you don't see I'm going to beat my wife in the NHL. No, that's just not how they handle their business. That's just not who they are. But and again, maybe I'm missing something. But in all the other ones, you have the issues with drugs. You have the issues with domestic violence. You got the issues all that kind of stuff. You have that issue in the NBA. You have that issue in the MLB, and then you have that issue in the NFL.
Right.
I don't know if it's just I want to say it's culture, in my opinion. I have to say that's culture.
Well, if you look at NHL NHL, I put MLB up there a little bit with NHL too. But you're looking at kids that are 18, 19, 20, and they love the game still. But not the NBA is full of, look for a better word, older generation, that don't really have the heart for the game anymore. It's just a paycheck. That's my opinion. I'm not saying they don't go out to camp and they don't put the work in and they don't whatever, but the passion's not there. And I think when you have passion, you stay away from the trouble stuff, right? So
and I think that's why in hockey that's why it's so exciting to watch, because they go out every night and they know what they have to do and they have to get the job done to get every game. See, that's why I love the shorter seasons, because I feel like in the hockey season is shorter than 82 games, and every game matters. You have to go out there and you have to win. 82 games in basketball, it just feels like forever.
Right. I believe you. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. In the NBA, it's about the money. It's about that. Unless we can even talk about that stupid mid-season, or not, they called it mid-season tournament, but
We're 5 games in.
5 games into the season of 85 games, you're going to call that a mid-season tournament. And to hear LeBron James say, and he said this, and I was like, are you kidding me? Each player that won the finals of the in the thing tournament, $500,000. What the hell?
Yeah.
It's not about the game anymore. It's about the money. It's about the money you can make. And maybe coming from a lower or middle class guy like me, maybe that's why I sound so salty about it. But I want to watch the basketball game because you want to play the game. I want to watch the sports because you want to put your heart into it. I'm sorry, even in the NFL, there's no more of these. There's no Magic Johnsons like there were. There's no Larry Birds like there were. There's no Barry Sanders, Billy Sims. Guys that put their blood, sweat, and tears to play the game because they love the game. There's not that. You don't see that except for in hockey or even baseball. One of our good friends from the podcast, he was going to come on the podcast, but he has a commitment he made for a pitcher catcher because he wants to play. And I just think that's where we fall short is people, they don't want, I don't know. It's about the check, not the.
I think that's why I love collegiate hockey or collegiate sports so much.
Yes, but that in itself, that now they got this NIL thing, and now hopefully starting next year when there's 12 teams in the bowl, 12 teams in the playoffs, players will not opt out of the bowl game because it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
I mean they're ready to go. They're ready to go to the and it's just I don't know. Man.
There he is.
There he is. Hey, Darren.
I can see you. There we go.
How you guys doing?
Oh, I missed these. There we go.
There?
I'm on the out. There we go. Can you hear me?
All right. I can hear you, yes.
We're good.
Good. So we're just talking about the passion of NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. The passion that it seems to be lacking in the NBA and NFL, and it's not compared to NHL players. And what we're talking about is maybe is it because of the culture and how young the players are in the NHL compared to those guys of the NFL and NBA? Is it what makes you're a retired NHL player. What was the difference? Why does the passion seem so more obvious for the sport in hockey compared to NBA or NFL?
I think leadership and the guys that came before you.
Okay.
If you didn't give everything you've got, if you didn't act like a teammate, you were going to get called out right away.
Okay.
I even look at, you listen to Barkley and Shaq talk about, resting before the playoffs, and these guys are playing 50 games but they're paying full. In the NBA, to me, that's a joke. You got to show up. I understand sitting them for the fourth quarter in some games leading up to the playoffs, but you're getting paid a ton of money, and I think they know they're getting paid a ton of money. And so it's not the same. We're building a field house on campus right now, and one of the contractors jumped off something to get something done and injured his leg. And the guy was there 2 days later on crutches because he had to work.
Yeah.
And if you're paid to play in the NBA, then show up and play the game.
Yeah.
I think the commissioner of NBA, that he put into play a rule this year that not more than one of your stars cannot make the trip. So if there's one star that doesn't make the trip, everybody else has to go.
Right.
Because as a fan sitting here, LA plays Golden State. Okay. So you got LeBron and and Davis and all them boys coming into play Golden State. they're big names. That game cost a lot of money to watch.
Right.
And then you sit the starters because why? Because I don't know, we're halfway through the season and we need to sit starters. And now fans are mad as far as that goes. They're mad because they're paying these big dollars and they don't get to see the guys play.
And the TV revenue and everything that goes, like you go to hockey, if Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid are sitting in the stands for the last 2 weeks, that's not fair to the fan. It's not fair to the team. And it's not fair to the opponent.
Right.
The opponent who's trying to make the playoffs, or the team that's watching you play, and all of a sudden you're not bringing your best lineup. If you're up 4-5-1 in a third period of a game, then you're going to get one out of every 6 shift.
Yeah.
And the kind of understood that. Whereas, I remember when, and it was great, and he's a legend in Toronto, but Kawhi Leonard came in and got them a world championship, but like a lot of the regular season games, you didn't get to see him play.
Right.
Exactly. And ticket prices now are insane. And for me, who grew up just outside the Holland Marsh, going to a Leaf game was a privilege growing up. So anytime we did have that chance, I wanted to see Sittler play. I wanted to see Lanny McDonald play. I wanted to see when Montreal came in, Lafleur and Dryden. So if those guys had a set, it would have kind of changed my view on them as kind of sports idols. But Sittler never sat. None of those guys sat. And even today, the NHL guys do not sit. They get back out there and play, because I think maybe part of the difference is the NHL guys love to play the game. Everybody hates practice, but those guys love to play in the game. They love to play in front of people.
Right.
And I think that's where the NBA is failing. And I think it's more of, you want to talk GOAT, like Michael Jordan made every guy around him better because he was, for whatever we want to say, like he was a tough guy to play with and for, but he wanted to play every night and he wanted to win. If that's not happening on all of these teams right now, their top guys are like, I don't feel like playing today.
Right.
And so I think it hurts the younger guys coming in.
Right. So we got a comment, and if Tank says the game is a psychological game that involves not thinking about the existence of the game. When someone thinks about the game, they lose. So you're traveling, so are you bringing your high school team up to Michigan to play in a tournament? Is that what's going on, or?
Yeah, so every year we come down. Usually we play a prep school schedule and then a AAA schedule. So we'll go up and play the Sioux Indians. We'll play Team Illinois in Windy City. But I always liked playing Catholic Central down here. Brendan Kalinecki does an unbelievable job with those guys. They rarely lose, if ever. So we came down this past whatever years, and then we heard about this showcase they have, the Trenton Showcase, and it's the top teams from the area. And just thought, it'd be a great chance. I love coming back to Michigan. But we were down last week. We played Brother Rice and Catholic Central, and then jumped back on the bus last night and made it about an hour when the bus tire decided to blow out, and we sat in the side of 94 for 2 hours. So we eventually got in about 1 a.m., but we don't play till 5. So they're young. They can handle
it. So now we have the All-Star game tomorrow, the NHL All-Star game tomorrow. They pick teams kind of like a schoolyard. What do you think? What do you think about that? Like, do you like that, or?
I hated it. When I retired, I was fortunate to coach the U.S. national development team. And I know it's a joke, and the way they do it is to have fun, but Phil Kessel is one of my favorite guys I've ever coached. And people now are understanding who he is. And I knew all along who he was. Like, he's an unbelievable player who just kind of goes by the beat of his own drummer.
Okay.
But I don't know if I know anybody that hates to lose worse than he does. Like, it was just a nightmare when it came to that, in the best way. But when they did it with him, and I saw him sitting there, and yes, he's an all-star, and he should have went, but they made a joke out of him. And even last night, while those guys are sitting there, and they're the top players in the league, they're studs. There's no doubt. But it's still, to me, it's you're embarrassing some of those guys, and I have a current player playing right now, and my stomach was in knots waiting for Alex to break it to get picked in one of those teams, and I'm like, this guy's a 40-goal scorer. You shouldn't have to sit there and be embarrassed. There's a better way to do it, and now they're talking about, which isn't true with Bublé, and like it took away from what is a great event for these guys.
Yeah. I see. That's why growing up watching the All-Star games, they were fun. Like
Right.
Scott and I were talking about this last week on the program. It was fun because it was East versus West. It was NL versus AL. It was like it was the two leagues going against each other, and it meant something.
Right.
And now it just doesn't seem like the NFL. They went to flag football.
Right.
It's like I don't.
And they went to 3-on-3. And again, it's great for the fans. I'm sure they love it. But if you're a hockey person watching it, you're kind of like, I can skip today.
Yeah.
And it's just not that same.
I don't even know what bail bondsman.
I remember watching Greg 5.
If they didn't give him the contract,
Mario play, and like those were a lot of fun. They weren't fun for the goalies, obviously, but offensively, those guys were going. And then when they decided to change a little bit to the world versus, then all of a sudden it kind of had a little bit. You're still not going to risk injuring yourself to get back in the season.
Yeah.
But I'm not even sure the All-Star game is worth it for these guys. I think they're going to have more fun hanging out with guys they're going to battle. I think they're going to enjoy tonight a lot more. They're going to enjoy kind of the going to the bar after. But like you look at Toronto, all 4 Toronto guys are on the same team. Like, spread them out, let them play against each other. So to me, it's just a different thing. So I'm going to watch because of Alex and just make sure. I want to make sure he's having fun doing what he's doing all the time.
Absolutely.
Talk about a different type of kid. So Alex came to us in 2014. Everyone said, too small, why are you going to LFA? He's proved everyone wrong. Like, he's now, I used to tell him he was Cy Young because he'd have 40 goals and 5 assists, and now all of a sudden he's a playmaker. He's playing just unbelievable. But he sent me a text last week and said, I heard you guys are in Michigan. I'm like, you got one day off. Your wife is due next week. And the guy shows up to watch us play on a Friday night on a day off with his wife and his dad, just an awesome guy too, and his son Archie. Like, that's a special person to me that remembers his roots, and we are part of his growth, and I know that a lot of people at Elephant love the guy for who he is, not for a 40-goal scorer in the NHL. But to my team, like, my guys were useless the first 10 minutes of that game because Alex DeBrincat stood at the door and gave them fist bumps on the way out. For one. And I'm like, do once, just go play, relax. But just those are the guys that I just love seeing have success. Just good people, and again, that's when you have good parents that aren't crazy hockey parents, you're going to raise them right. And his older brother is actually maybe the best defense. Well, it is the best defenseman I ever had. An incredible player.
Nice.
So how's your team doing this year?
We are currently 29, 9-2. We are.
Nice.
It's an interesting team. I thought last year's team, it would be a fall off coming in, but I've got a lot of new kids, and for some reason, I've got a French connection now, and we're getting some really good kids out of Quebec that have come in and been great teammates and just great kids. So we play with a lot of speed, and my captain's committed to Lake Superior.
Nice.
The first guy in I don't know how long that they've listened to me about. He's 6'5", and he's going to the BC League next year. And then we got a bunch of other guys that are going to be really, really good. So they're fun to watch. They're aggravating in the defensive zone for me, but they're kids that have been only taught to do skill work their whole life, so they're still learning how to play the game.
Awesome. And who do you play tonight?
We are playing Clarkston.
Okay.
And then St. Edwards tomorrow, and then we go to Buffalo next week for playoffs, and then a couple more weekends. North Star Academy out of Minnesota, great school. And then I put the hockey stuff away, and I become the softball coach again.
There you
Oh,
go.
nice.
There you go. So
Well,
Yes.
go ahead.
is Clarkston? Are they going to put? Are they a solid team? Do you have a game plan for that?
You know what? I'm a terrible coach when it comes to that stuff.
Okay.
I'm a believer in we're going to play our style no matter who we're playing against.
Okay.
And it's going to be fast, and it's going to be puck possession, and the score to me at this level doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's more of, are you playing the game right? And am I showcasing you the right way? Like, as scouts are watching, I don't want to play a trap. I don't want to have the guys sit back and win 1-0. I want them to be able to go and show off what they have. I'm very anti prima donna. Our guys know that. So it's a team type of game they play, but I don't really watch the team we're playing. If we're playing the way we're supposed to and the goaltending's doing what they're supposed to do, then we're going to have a good game. And we've played some AAA teams. We beat Team Illinois 7-0. We beat Windy City, who used to be CYA 8-5, and I think it's because our guys don't get rattled and we'll play.
So now the guys that are playing for your prep school, are they on the same level as that USA hockey team that just about a month ago won that tournament?
Some of my guys are. I think when you have a school like ours, it's a tough school to get into. It's the top academic school in the Midwest.
Okay.
So I only get enough guys, and I only want enough guys. I try and go with 10 forwards and 5 deep, couple goalies, and when you have injuries, you get in trouble. But my guys will go, the majority of them, from here to the BC League. A couple will go to the North American League. We'll send some to the Central Canadian League. And our guys will end up going from there, kind of a mix, like the starting goalie from Air Force, the player of the week in Hockey East. Harrison Scott plays for Maine. His brother Max is at Brown. We got guys at RPI, Western Michigan, Alaska. And then in the D3, we got guys at Middlebury, Babson, Colby, some really good schools. Lake Forest College, and Lawrence is a former player of mine who also played at Lake State. So we'll try and send a couple to Brett along the way.
So Lake State, usually we talk Lake State hockey. They're off this weekend, so that's one less thing for us to talk about. But they are in the news with Jared Westcott,
Yeah,
being a award finalist. I'm actually watching one of his highlight reels right now, and he looks like a tremendous hockey player.
you know what? He's kind of and I hate kind of my era conversations at times with the newer guys. And when I went to the Hall of Fame and Ashley and I went in to talk to the team, I remember saying to the team, you don't want to listen to us right now. You're about to play Michigan. And all you got to do is concentrate on today. But that is a guy that would have fit in with our era, because he is a guy that goes to the net. He is a guy with Jimmy Dowd type of skill. And from all accounts, he's just a really good guy inside that locker room. And those are big, and those are what we need more of back up there. So watching that is always good. I like their goalie. I think he's a good goalie. And I think Damon's rebuilding again. It's tough. I don't like today's college hockey. I think it's become selfish. You know, the NIL and the name and likeness and all that crap. But to me, the worst part of college hockey and all of college athletics right now is that transfer portal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can just pout your way through a season and then not listen to the coach and become a distraction in the locker room and know that you can jump in and go to another college. And that's not the way you build a team. Right. You know, everybody has adversity. Everybody goes through ups and downs. Like, I definitely had my freshman year where Coach Anzalone ripped me apart. And at the end of the day, it was the right stuff. But nowadays, a guy like me would jump in the portal just to run away. And right. I don't like it. And then when, you know, you have a school like Lake State, back then we could have started picking off anybody we wanted. But that would have just destroyed who we were. And, you know, a lot of our guys didn't go to the NHL. A lot of our guys didn't even go pro. But damn, were they good college hockey players and great teammates. And I think that's what college hockey has now gone away from. I think Quinnipiac, great. That's the Lake State model right there. Can he keep it up? Or if he yells at a guy for turning the puck over, is that kid going to go, well, I'm going to Notre Dame next year? Like, that's not what it is. And that's not what it should be. And there should be what it used to be. You want to transfer? Okay. What are the reasons? You're going to sit a year.
Right.
And then that also keeps, and they have to do it. So I'm not calling college coaches because they're all doing it, but it's almost like they're vultures now. They're watching other teams and waiting at the back door to get the pick of the prime, and that's garbage. That's not what college hockey is. College hockey, to me, and should always be about that school and that crest on your jersey, and it's not on far too many places now.
Right. Oh, I agree 100% because you see there that on National Commitment Day, the guys pull out their hats and I'm going to commit my rest of my la-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's a bunch of horse crap because you don't mean that. You're going to go there until you don't like what you're doing, and then you're going to take your little ball or puck or whatever and run. And
then to sit there with 5 schools sitting in front of you saying which one so 4 of you aren't good enough for me is all they're saying in those.
Right.
And that's garbage. Like, when Coach Anzalone offered me a scholarship to go to Lake State and I didn't get a full, I couldn't wait to get home to tell my parents what had happened.
Right.
Because someone wanted me.
Right.
And that's what it should be, instead of now it's far too much. What can you do for me? Right. And it's just not what college sports is supposed to be. And these guys are making millions of dollars in this stuff. Like Lake State, I went to school with people who had to pay to go to Lake State. Yep. And through the first 2 years.
Right.
But I didn't pay as much as them because the school was offering me financial compensation to go there and play. They didn't do anything that had my name on my jersey. So they were doing nothing to that stuff. Right. But they gave me a chance at a life. And for a lot of these guys, I don't think they look at it that way. And I would be interested to see in 10 years all of these kids who have tried this garbage. Where are they? Where are they in basketball? Where are they in football? Where are they in hockey? Because only a few make it. And when the person I feel kind of bad for is the gymnast at LSU. Like, yeah, you've made a ton of money, but you're a hell of a gymnast.
Mm-hmm.
How come we don't talk about that?
Right.
They're too worried about her social media, and she's, obviously done a great business model, but you went to LSU for gymnastics. That's what it should be. And Lake State, you're going to Michigan, hopefully for hockey and football. And they're just, I feel like, I love listening to Tim Tebow and talk about kind of his love for Florida. And that's what I have for Lake State. It's like that place gave me a home, but that place gave me a future. That place gave me a chance to meet my wife. That place gave me a chance to have, now I've got 2 kids. I've got a granddaughter. I've got a great career. My wife's got a great career. My son's doing great. My daughter's doing great. Like, that's all because Lake State gave me a chance. And I think today's athlete doesn't look at it that way, and it's bad.
I think the NIL too it's going to end up, because I work at Central Michigan University, and they're mid-major in all of the sports, and we don't have the money in the NIL fund to dish out for these big-time players.
Right.
And it's going to kill those universities as far as their recruiting process. We'll never get a chance at a shot or at a guy like the next big thing. We'll never see that come through our school. And if we do, they'll play a year and then they're gone.
Right.
We lost three kids on our basketball team last year to NIL. They left and one went to Oregon, one went to Vanderbilt. No, one went to Oregon, one went to Wake Forest, and the other one went somewhere else out west.
Right.
So, I mean, the NIL it sucks.
You're turning small schools into feeder programs.
Yeah.
And it's just not, again, like a Lake State model from what we were gets eaten alive today. We don't get Doug Waite because somebody's going to offer him a ton of money. We don't get Roley. Like Ralston doesn't come to us. Somebody's going to give him a ton of money.
Right.
Instead, they came and they dominated and made us what we are. And Jimmy was a rare Jimmy Dowd. Nobody wanted him because he was from Brick back then, and there was no respect for New Jersey hockey for some reason. Still the best college player I saw or played with, but they're banging on his door after his freshman year, after what he did to Maine in the semifinals. Like, all of those schools would have been banging on his door to get him away from Lake State, because we wouldn't have been able to afford to keep a guy like that. And it's just sad because selfishly, I wouldn't have been able to play with the guy.
Right. And then, Matt and I are talking about the bowl games that, and I just use college football for example. I don't know if it's like this in hockey, but I'm going to sit because I'm not in the top 4 bowl games. I don't want to play the rest. It's like players are giving up on their college that they signed with because they're not in a certain game, and I think that bothers me to no end, because I'm like, I don't get it. People like you got Dowd and yourself. Whether you're winning or losing, you guys continue to play the game for the school that offered you the opportunity.
Right.
We're not worried. I mean, but it goes back to the NIL. It goes back to, it's a selfish thing. It's a very big selfish thing. And I'm like, you get no respect. I don't know. Those teams that didn't make the top 2 football games of the NCAA.
Well, Florida State.
Yeah, 23 players.
Every guy on that team should be required to pay back their entire scholarship to Florida.
Yes. Yep.
The deal was, you're coming to play for us, and people will say, well, they're risking their NFL status. I get that, but they wouldn't have had NFL status. Florida State didn't have them playing.
Yep.
And you know what? You take out an insurance policy then.
Yep.
To that game. But every one of those guys, because they embarrassed Florida State.
Huh?
And I felt so bad for those guys in the field. And I felt bad for their opponent, because their opponent, like, nobody wants to have a bowl game like that.
Right.
But it's happening so much now. And it's like, again, show up to work.
Mhm.
Yep.
College football is a job.
Yep.
College basketball is a job. College hockey is a job. Show up to work, play your. Yeah. And if you decide you're going to sit out because you don't want to risk, then okay. Write me a check for $240,000 because that's what I paid on you. And then you don't have to play.
Right.
So before we get in it, I found these. My son, this is a little bit off topic, but my son was collecting cards, and I found these in my collection.
Oh God. So the interesting thing on the one on the left, the Lake State one,
Yep.
that's not me on the back. It's a mistake card.
Oh.
That's Blaine.
That's blind. Okay.
That's Blaine on the back. I'm like, we didn't even look like each other. Like, my pads were different. He was 6'3". Like, he looked cool in net. I looked like a hobbit. He mixed those up. I'm like, thanks. Appreciate that one. That's my rookie card.
Yeah.
They give you like 2,000 of them at the start that you have to sign. So I remember sitting with my wife, just kind of giving myself carpal tunnel and watching TV. But it was so cool, like getting that first card. We were in Edmonton. I just got called up in early, like mid-October, my rookie year. I went down for a couple games, got called up, and a kid brought it up to me and said, "Can you sign this?" I go, "I doubt that's me." And then when you first see a card, you just you become kind of like Jello. Like I didn't know what to say to the kid. My autograph was probably like a crayon and just went straight across, but just to have something like that, just, it blew me away. But that's the mistake card of me and Locks.
Huh. Well, I'll message you after this, and if you don't mind, I'd like to send these to you.
Oh, absolutely.
And
those are an honor to sign. It's crazy because, like, I get a lot of cards that are mailed to Lake Forest Academy. So the lady Jane works at the mailroom, has actually put a Sharpie right there so that we can and get them right back to the people. The best one I ever had was last Christmas. I think the kid was 5 or 6 years old and wrote me a letter in crayon, just saying, obviously hockey is everything I love. And so I was so blown away by it. I went and got him a bunch of Lake Forest Academy hockey gear and mailed it back to him. And then I posted it. But anytime anybody sends me a card, it's a huge honor, as long as it's for the right reason. Like, sometimes you get 20 of them and you know what they're kind of doing with it. And,
yeah,
the one distinguishing thing about me is I'm the first Ottawa Senator under contract in the modern era. And so my players are like, "So when you die, does that mean your card is worth a lot more?" I go, "No, it's not like And I got to watch my back now with you.
There you go.
But no, it's always, I love getting those.
Cool.
What's the chances of LSSU's hockey team making it into the tournament?
You know what? It's coming down to goaltending, and it will always come down to goaltending. And if he's on, he's tough to beat. But I think the other side of it is having the players on that team understand how to enter the tournament and how to enter playoffs, how to stay calm in all aspects of that tournament. Because right now, they have the ability to win their conference. They can go into that playoff and kind of catch fire. But I look back at the 3 years that we did it. My first year, we should have won the national championship, but everyone got the flu. And we had guys laying in the training room throwing up when we were at Colgate, and there was nothing. The second year, we didn't know how to handle success. That was Coach Jackson's first year. Unfortunately, our focus was winning at the Joe, because Lake State had never won at Joe Louis Arena. And when we beat Michigan in overtime, our focus, and mine especially, drifted away. And then you have the week off, and then Clarkston came to visit, and we were a mess. We weren't ready. We were undisciplined. I gave up goals I never give up. And it was just, I think we were so fired up that we won at the Joe that we thought that was the national championship. And then the next year, there was no pressure. The year we won it, there was absolutely no one expected us. But what we had freshmen like Ralston and Hanley who didn't know what pressure was. We had sophomores like Beddoes and Morin and Barnes and Ness. And same thing, like they had won the year before, but it didn't really catch on. And then now they're sophomores and seniors. Unfortunately, the seniors during my last year were disrespected. Their entire career, they were kind of disrespected because the Jim Dowd era, that's the greatest class probably that ever came through. They went in as freshmen and won the national championship. So when Fauché and Constantin and Moger and Astley came in, they were never really given the true respect that my class was a little bit better when it came to that. It was myself and Dougie Wade and Smith and Hewlett and Hendry. And so we had a little bit more respect. So those four seniors, nobody thought they were going anywhere. And all four did. And then we went to Ohio State and I didn't play. And I had kind of a bad groin. That's when it started. And we got swept at Ohio State. And personally, I just remember apologizing to Coach Jackson in the locker room and taking the blame for it. I'm like, I can't sit a game. I don't care if it hurts. I'll sit practices. I hated practice, but I was notorious for missing Mondays. But we went into the playoffs. We beat Michigan State. And then we beat Michigan, who were dominant all year, and we won the Joe. The biggest challenge all NCAA playoffs was actually Alaska. That Alaska team stacked. We did not see them coming. And in all the games, I think that was the game where I had to make saves that I don't usually make on this team. Whereas if I had made those saves against Clarkston, we would have went through. But I think that settled all the guys down, and then we beat the hell out of Minnesota. We beat them like 8-1 or 8-2. And then Michigan State again, and then Wisconsin. But it was all guys that none of us looked at each other like superstars, even though we all knew Ralston was. And we knew Beto was a stud. And we just we went out and played, didn't have that fear of losing. If we lost, no one expected it. And so with this current team, if they go in that same way thinking, there's going to be times during the game where you just got to stay calm. If somebody goes up 2-2 or 2-1, it happens. Just worry about the next shift. But it's when you get panicked and rattled, that's when you kind of run into problems. So the hope is that senior class, who's had some success early in their career at Lake State, can kind of help the younger guys through that. And the other is, you look up in those rafters, there are a lot of banners in those rafters. And those banners are because, again, we weren't Michigan. We weren't the current Notre Dame. We were guys that played kind of for each other. We all lived on campus. We were all part of the community. That's when the us versus them really kicks in, is when the community and the school feel they're as much, and they are, part of it as the guys on the ice. And so I think if they can figure out how to get the town, and especially the school, kind of following them and being friends and hanging out, and that Taffy Able Arena is disgustingly loud if you're an opponent. And that horn after a goal, I sat with Mike Gilmore, who was the goalie for Michigan State, at a Lake State game last year, and he said, I hated coming here because that stupid horn was right behind me. And your fan base was loud because they weren't our fans, they were our friends.
You're right. Everybody was family. The way you guys stood out in the hallway before the game even and shook hands, everything about that hockey era was family, and that's, everybody loved to come to that and watch their, like you said, we knew you personally.
Right. And that's leadership. And that's, Coach Anzalone started it with that kind for us. And Coach Jackson that stayed with it. I went to a lot of schools to kind of hang out with kindergarten through grade 5, and I would go to the on-campus. There was a nursery on campus where there was like a daycare, and you go hang out there. But it's interesting, like when you play on a team that good, and I go back to it, and I do miss it a lot. And I miss the Sioux a lot. There's something that felt familiar, felt like home to me.
Yeah.
But it was stressful as hell. Like the stress that was put on myself, because we would dominate a team for 5 minutes and I'd be standing there alone, just kind of talking to myself and looking in the stands, and then all of a sudden a 2-on-1. The stress was to make sure I wasn't giving up a goal or two every game. When that ended, I didn't really go to a lot of parties. One, I didn't drink, so I would go for a little bit, but most of the time I would especially sophomore year, I would hang out with my wife, and I would hang out with guys in the dorm, especially at Brady Hall. Like those guys became, because they didn't look at me as, okay, this idiot's an All-American. They just kind of looked at me as, this guy's just an idiot that hangs out with us, and he's one of us. To me, I needed that. I needed to not worry about hockey. I needed to not worry about who you're going to sign with your junior year. Like, I don't know. And if I don't sign, I'm coming back to Lake State. But it was those people outside. Like, you would go, there was a guy that owned a card shop downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just go down there and hang out, and we'd look at baseball stuff and football, and I was supposed to sign with the LA Kings, so he had a LA Kings hat that he made up for me. Like, those are the things. I'd go to Pingator Dry Cleaner just to hang out with them.
Yeah.
And then if I could save $5, I'd get Domino's small pizza.
There you go.
But like those were the difference back then. Was those people were our friends. They were our family. They weren't just fans. And I don't know if many schools could say that happened. Maine, I think Maine is similar to Lake State in that, where we knew everybody.
Well, I know I have tons of memories of like it, and it was showing up every Friday and Saturday night for me anyway, making the trip from Indian River to Sault Ste. Marie and watching you guys and seeing the same people. We sat next to the same people every weekend, and it was a big family. Like we were, and that's the memories that I wish that I could start with my son. But the society in general isn't what it is. Like you can't do that now because everyone's so focused here
Right.
and not here. But
And I'm as much with that phone with the job I have. But it's interesting, like part of the reason I went to Lake Forest Academy was it was time for my wife to have her shot to get her master's, and because I was back on a path where I could have kept going up. I was coaching the national team. We were successful. But when I went to Lake Forest Academy, I built a hockey team like Lake State was. And some of the people think we're a cult. And I'm okay with that because all those guys will show up at a JV2 basketball game together because they want to watch other guys in the team or other guys in the school. And they'll go to the volleyball games. They'll go to everything.
Right.
But where I really saw it help was, my pro career, a lot of it was my fault, but it was still, I wouldn't change a lot of it. It was, and I do it. I didn't train hard enough. I knew that. And eventually it beat me up. I should I have went to LA right out of college, like the contract had kind of been sitting there to go? Maybe, but I went to Ottawa and I love Ottawa. It's my favorite place I played. But with it, my kids had to move a lot. And so my daughter moved 28 times because we'd always go back to Ottawa no matter where I played.
Right.
My son ended up moving as well. So what this place gave him was a home and a home base. And I remember the first year, and my son didn't love hockey. I think my daughter didn't like hockey either because they'd make friends and I'd be like, oh, I got traded. They're like, you suck. And so my son started to love hockey. He was playing for a team in Vernon Hills when we got there, and they were playing our rink. And my entire team stood behind the net. And I remember he scored the winning goal with like 30 seconds left, and they went nuts. And he was in fourth grade at the time.
Wow.
He then, like, something clicked into him that, oh my God, I got all these guys that are kind of big brothers for me.
Yeah.
And he was able to go through and played for me and then played college hockey and then moved on to teach and now he's in sales. My daughter loved the school. I don't think it was as easy having me as a father at the school she was going to, or 20 hockey players that were big brothers staring at any guy that tried to ask her out.
Yeah.
And intimidating. And then my son's like a mini version of me, but smarter and more of a smartass. And so any guy that would come over, we'd just intimidate. So I think she had a good experience in high school, but I think college was probably a lot more fun. But that school has given them this family. And as I said with the Brinket, like for a guy that successful living in Michigan to show up at a game on a Friday night, there's something special that's happened inside that place.
Absolutely.
And to me, I want to see, and I was so close to coming back to Lake State this year. So close. I still kick myself. And it will happen one day. Like, I have to go back, one, because I love the place, but two, to work there to repay what they did for me.
Right.
But I would love to see Lake State return to that type of place. And a lot of people are like, well, it's changed and it's different and it's this and that. No. Good people will always build a community. And I know there's a lot of new people in the Sioux, but like, how far is your drive to go watch a Lake State game back then? In the winter?
Well, Indian River to Sault Ste. Marie is about an hour and a half.
Because Indian River is where I get off to go live on Twin Lakes. So that's my turnoff point. You know, you had the night from Gaylord.
Yeah.
That area was us.
Yeah.
That was Lake State.
Yep.
It can be again, but it's how you do things inside, and it's how you make sure people know it's not your money. It's your friendship and part of the community that I want you to feel a part. Because again, we live in a time where there's not a lot of happiness and a lot of, I don't even watch the news because it's a joke.
Mm-hmm.
One side is so a huge side of it is anti the Republican Party, and then the other side's anti-Dem, and it's like, you guys just love to hate each other so that you can stay in office.
Yep.
And you're making it worse and worse for everybody. And then you go on social media, it's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Lake State hockey used to be, and when we lost to Clarkson, we hurt, but the town was crushed. That's when you know you've built the right thing.
Wow.
Because people were hugging me after we lost. And I knew a lot of it was my fault that we lost. Did not play well. And they were there for me. And you're not going to find that anywhere else. And you can find that again because people are looking for that.
Yeah.
People are just looking for tired of the garbage. And just, you know, and maybe it can be. But that's what a lot of people want to see again. They just want to see people get along, and if we can get rid of the politicians, I think people will get along.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mr. Darrin Madeley, for coming on your busy schedule. I'm great. We're grateful that you were able to come. We're very grateful for the friendship that you had with the Huge Pop Sports Talk. It's about the time for us to all wrap it up for a Friday afternoon. Thank you, everybody that watched. That's going to be watching this show. And we're out. And thanks again, man. Good luck tonight. Okay.
Thanks.
All right.